Okay, let's just dive right in. We all say sorry, right? But for some of us, it's way more than just a word. It's this automatic, knee-jerk reflex. So today, we're going to get past the simple manners of it all and really dig into the deep psychology behind why some people apologize for, well, for pretty much everything. And this quote, this gets right to the heart of it. It completely reframes the whole conversation. We're not talking about an admission of guilt here. We're talking about a learned survival tactic, a little shortcut to safety that got hardwired into the brain a long, long time ago. So, does any of this ring a bell? You know, saying sorry when someone else bumps into you, apologizing for asking a totally reasonable question, or starting a request with, "sorry to bother you"? Yeah, this isn't just about being polite. It's a very specific pattern, and believe me, it has an origin story.
So if this whole habit isn't really about making mistakes, then where on earth does it come from? Well, as we're about to see, the roots are almost always found in the emotional weather of the homes we grew up in.
This right here shows such a crucial contrast. See, in a predictable home, a kid learns that, okay, conflict happens, but you can navigate it. But in an unpredictable one, where emotions are volatile or love and approval feel like they can be taken away at any moment, well, the brain learns a very different lesson. Being agreeable is how you survive. Honesty feels way too risky, so just being easy becomes the safest way to move through the world. Now, when you're faced with some kind of social tension, maybe a weird shift in tone or a sudden awkward silence, the logical part of your brain might ask this very question. It's a rational attempt to figure out what's going on. But the brain of an over-apologizer? It doesn't wait for an answer. Nope, it just bypasses logic completely and makes the jump straight to, "I'm sorry." It's like a preemptive surrender, you know? It's designed to shut down a conflict before it can even start because somewhere in the past, the price of conflict felt way too high. Okay, so let's get into the next piece of this puzzle, the mind's safety strategy. This is all about the internal mechanics of sorry and how a habit you picked up as a kid gets built into this whole mental framework that just keeps running on autopilot in adulthood, long after you've left that old environment behind. And at the very center of it all is this concept, hyper-responsibility. It's this deep, gut feeling that if anyone in the room is even slightly uncomfortable, it is somehow your job to fix it. So if your boss lets out a sigh or a friend goes quiet, that internal alarm bell just starts blaring and you feel this immediate pressure to manage their feelings for them. And all this behavior, it builds an entire identity around being the easy one. And it feels safe, you know, at first. People might even praise you for being so agreeable. But over time, that identity, it becomes a cage. It's constantly sending this subtle message to your brain that your needs are an inconvenience, that your very presence requires justification. And rumbling just beneath the surface is this powerful fear of escalation. So that sorry isn't really about the small thing that just happened. It's a peace offering. It's an attempt to stop a tiny issue from blowing up into something huge and emotionally overwhelming. Because your past experiences have taught you that that's exactly what can happen. And while this whole strategy feels like it's keeping you safe, like it's keeping the peace, it comes with a quiet, cumulative cost. It does real, subtle damage over time. In your relationships, this dynamic creates this deep, unspoken imbalance. The over-apologizer ends up carrying all the emotional weight, constantly shrinking themselves to accommodate the other person. And the other person, often without even realizing it, just gets used to taking up all that extra space. It quietly hands all the authority to one person and all the accommodation to the other. And the word sorry itself starts to morph into something else entirely. It becomes less about actual accountability and more about, well, this. It's emotional padding. It's a way to soften your truth, like saying, "sorry, but could I ask?" This just waters down what you need to say, and over time, it chips away at your self-worth. And eventually, sorry gets so overused it just becomes meaningless. So, the big question. How do you even begin to break this cycle? Well, the journey out of it doesn't start with forcing yourself to stop. It starts with something much simpler and much gentler: awareness. The very first step is just to notice. That's it. Just notice the impulse. When you're about to say it, ask yourself, is this sorry coming from a place of anxiety, or did I actually do something wrong? Are you saying sorry when what you really mean is, "hey, I disagree with that," or "ouch, that actually hurt"? The goal here isn't to change overnight. It's just to become an observer of your own pattern. And in that tiny moment of noticing, you create this, a pause. It might only last for a split second, but that little gap between the impulse and the action, that is where all the power is. That's the space where you can actually make a different choice. But, and this is so important, you have to know that this is going to feel weird at first, probably really unsettling. Your nervous system has been using this apology strategy to keep you safe for years, maybe decades. When you challenge it, it might just freak out a little. That panicky feeling doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're changing something that was deeply, deeply ingrained. Because the ultimate goal here, it's not to become some totally different person. It's about finally giving yourself permission to be the person you already are, and to fully, unapologetically occupy your own space. And this image, it just captures that feeling perfectly. When you finally stop carrying the emotional weight for everyone around you, it is literally like putting down a heavy bag you didn't even realize you'd been carrying all this time. The sense of relief is just profound. You start to let that responsibility go back to where it belongs. And you start to learn a whole new set of rules. You start to really learn that just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean they're going to abandon you. You begin to internalize this powerful truth that having needs and actually saying them out loud is a normal, healthy part of being a human being. It is not an act of selfishness. And maybe most importantly, you start to believe that your very presence, just you, being in a room, is not an inconvenience that requires a constant apology. You have a right to be there, exactly as you are. Now, let's be super clear about this. This whole journey is not about becoming cold or uncaring. Not at all. True connection isn't built on one person erasing themselves. The goal was never to stop caring about other people. It was simply to stop disappearing in the process. And so, we end with the one central question that this whole process really asks you to consider. And it's a question of permission, not from anyone else, but from yourself. Permission to take up space, to have needs, and to exist authentically without constantly feeling the need to smooth down your own edges.